Hey, look what we have found. A big sound in a small town. Far away from the bright lights. They're making music every night. Discover what is all around. A big sound. A big sound. In a small town. Big sound, small town. A really big sound. Big sound, small town.
You're listening to Big Sound, Small Town with Sandy Carlton.
Hey y'all, come out to the Earl Scruggs Music Festival September 1st through 3rd, 2023. That's Labor Day weekend at the Trine International Equestrian Center in Mill Spring, North Carolina. Enjoy music on 2 stages, workshops, craft vendors, food, drinks, everything you might want in a festival experience. We have lodging on site, and for 3 days, we have 3 major headliners. We have Emmylou Harris, the infamous String Dusters, Green Sky Bluegrass, and a whole host of other really incredible artists celebrating the legacy of Earl Scruggs for a full weekend. So don't miss it, September 1st through 3rd, 2023.
All right, this is a song that I wrote. I was down in Austin, Texas, back in the 80s. I lived there for a while. And I was down on 6th Street in Texas, and I went to this little place called Cafe Brazil. From my chair in my mind, in my mind, in my mind. All right, this is another collaboration I did. A young man in, he's actually back in the Charlotte area, a guy named Douglas Thompson. You might have heard him.
I know Doug.
If you haven't.
Doug's been out. Doug came to the songwriting deal we put on, actually the last one. Doug was here.
Cool.
So yeah, Doug's a cool guy.
Great guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've done a couple of songs together. This was, I can't remember if this was the first one. Actually, this is probably the second one we did together. But this is probably my most requested song. Someone left the gate open, and he finally made his break. He didn't know what he would find out there. It was a chance he just had to take. Got the mail this morning, mostly bills and a catalog. But in between the envelopes was a postcard from the dog. And he wrote, "How are you people? Me, I'm doing mostly fine. Made it here to Paris, France. I met a poodle named Adeline. And we take walks along the river, sleep under blooming trees. It's really not so bad here if you can tolerate French fleas. Got the mail this morning, mostly bills and a catalog. In between the envelopes was a postcard from the dog. He's been gone for so long now, and we still don't know why. He didn't know if he could make it out there, but I guess he just had to try. Now we were mostly happy that he had found his way. When we got him, he was a street dog, just a cold and hungry stray. And in our minds we always knew that someday he would write us. But the thing that broke our hearts was that he never did invite us. He just wrote, "How are you people? Me, I'm doing most fine. Made it here to Paris, France, and met a poodle named Adeline. And we take walks along the river, eat baguettes under blooming trees. It's really not so bad here if you can tolerate French fleas. Got the mail this morning, mostly bills and a catalog. In between the envelopes was a postcard from the dog. Yes, in between the envelopes was a postcard from the dog." Hello, I'm Louis Beeler. I am a singer-songwriter in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I'm also the head button pusher at Tiny Stage Concerts. We have a lot of singer-songwriters that come through there. Currently, we're up to 276 concerts.
Wow,
Since,
that's a bunch.
Since 2016, yeah.
That's a great. Let's just start talking about that. It's a great thing you've done for the songwriting community of actually North Carolina, because they're not just all Charlotte-based acts.
Yeah, we've spread out. Originally, it was just mostly Charlotte and regional, and we've become, there's several touring musicians that have come through in different states around the country, and we even had one guy come all the way from Australia.
Really? That's cool.
Yeah.
So tell me about the origination of this concept. You said it started in 2016.
In 2016, I bought my house in 2015, and we used to, back in those days, we used to have song circles. We'd have songwriters come over to the house. And so I got the idea of building a stage to do house concerts.
Yeah.
And but by the time I finished up the stage and had everything in there, I realized I could only get about 10 people.
Oh, yeah. I mean, because I had thought when I first went in there, I thought this would be a great place for a house concert. But now that you say that, you limit the people you could bring in there.
Have to be a really, really reserved.
So rather than a house concert, you've just given yourself a concert weekly.
Right. So we got the idea, since we couldn't get very many people in there, I got the idea of doing a virtual concert.
Right.
And just having friends come over. I have a lot of songwriter friends. So just having a new friend come over every week and just posting one every week.
Yeah.
So it kind of just went from there. And originally, when I had the idea and the concept, trying to get people to come over and explain the concept to them, there was a lot of trepidation about it. They weren't really sure what it was.
Sure.
So once we had a couple of them, and one of the things I really wanted to do, I had been to several shows around Charlotte area, and even open mics and stuff. And one of the biggest problems I had was these songwriters had really good songs, but you could never hear the lyrics.
True.
Either the sound quality or people were talking. So I wanted to have something that would showcase songwriting and the lyrics, and people would be able to get a good, clear recording of the
Well, now, let me ask you, who was your first? Do you remember your first?
First one was Al Lemon.
Okay.
He was actually my roommate before I bought the house.
Oh, okay.
So he was our guinea pig.
Yeah, he's a guinea pig, yeah.
So, and we were learning as we went. We were trying to, because it was a video recording, we had to kind of compromise. You couldn't get the best mic position because you also wanted to get the video.
Sure, yeah.
So trying to get good sound. And I think because of the way the room was built, we had good acoustics in the room.
Right.
So it really helped with the recordings.
Well,
I was able to get good recordings.
Now I've listened to a bunch of them, and you have improved greatly with each one. I guess it's improvement in equipment, improvement in technique. I mean, I guess you've just, after over 200 of them, you begin to learn what works and don't, right?
Yeah, you kind of get a feel. So I kind of figured out the room pretty quick. And then we had some decent. We started off with blue microphones.
Yeah.
And then lately, I've purchased some Lewitt microphones, which are really good. It's a company out of Austria.
Yeah, I know those mics.
So those really helped the sound. And then just getting the mix between the guitars and the vocals.
Did you have a problem early on getting people to come on?
Yeah, initially people weren't sure what it was.
Right.
So we had to. A lot of people rebooked because they had set up an appointment, and then for whatever reason they couldn't make it. So, but after about the first 5 or so, we started getting steady bookings because people saw what
you were doing.
And we were getting good.
I mean, I wondered how you promoted it. I didn't know if you had to go around to like songwriter showcases and go, "Hey, I got this."
Actually, it kind of evolved organically because as
That's
we had
good.
people on, they would tell their friends about it.
Yeah.
And so then I think probably after about 6 months, we were to the point where we were booked out about a year.
Oh, that's great. I mean, yeah.
Because once people saw what we were doing, they wanted to get a chance to come
I mean,
on.
it's a great concept. Actually, you're one of the few people that do that. And it is it's an individual generally who is on their songwriter. So it does vary from the NPR Tiny Desktop type thing, but it's a similar type thing.
Yeah. When we first started, I wasn't even aware of the Tiny Desk.
Okay.
After we had done 2 or 3 of them, then I discovered Tiny Desk. And we were kind of in a parallel path with them because it was pretty similar. Bob, his last name eludes me at the moment. The guy who started Tiny Desk.
Oh yeah,
He had the same thing. He went to a show and he couldn't hear the band very well.
Right.
So he, on a fluke, he just invited the artist to come to the studio to do a recording, and it just kind of took off from there.
I mean, it's a great way. I've always been a fan of listening rooms and house concerts because you can actually hear the words.
Yeah.
People don't talk around it. So there's very few of those too. I mean, there's more possibly since there are coffee houses again and craft breweries, but still they're few and far between where people will listen.
Yeah.
And where the sound is good enough to understand it, what their songs are about.
Oh, yeah.
So
and it's an interesting concept to just introduce songwriters to people, because it's grown organically, because every time we have a new artist, their fans will watch them, and then they'll discover some of the other people.
Yeah, it's a great tool for of course, for the songwriting community. I mean, they love it. You know, it's a chance to go on and do your songs instead of having to go out and do 2 of yours and 3 covers. You know, so.
And then prior to COVID, we were doing regular showcases. We would have people who had been on Tiny Stage come out. We'd have like 3 of them.
Right.
So we started doing that back in 2016, into 2016. And so that was going pretty good. And then 2 or 3 times a year, we would have what we call reunion shows,
right,
where we'd have about 20 to 30 artists come out
sure.
and play.
I, from the podcast here, have a Big Sound Small Town Songwriters showcase, and we do that. And it's been really, really good. We have a good location, Dragonfly, which is across the street here. It's a listening room most of the time. It just depends, but for the songwriter nights, it's pretty much a listening room, and it's been fun to have people on the show and then come out and play music with them. Actually, Kevin Bridges and I host that, so you know Kevin.
Oh yeah, he's great.
Yeah, Kevin's great.
Yeah, he was on the Tiny Stage back in probably 2017.
Yeah, he's a great songwriter and a fun guy to be in. I'm actually in several things with Kevin at the moment. We have a John Prine tribute band called the Handsome Johnnies, with another fine songwriter, Dale Britton, and we and he and I have a band called Cleveco, and we got several things going on, the 2 of us. So he's a joy to work with. Well, before you were into the I guess you would call that video recording that you do. Obviously, you were a musician.
Yeah.
So tell me about how that comes about.
Well, I grew up. I have 2 older brothers that play guitar and perform and sing. So there's always been music in the house. And my oldest brother had just a huge album collection. So we listened to
everything.
Just everything. Yeah. My parents were big Lawrence Welk fans, and country music. So they had a pretty varied musical taste. So
I had to watch a lot of Lawrence Welk growing up. Thank you, music lovers. You know, yeah. Oh yeah.
So I grew up with music, and I started playing guitar when I was about 15.
Oh, that's good.
And
were you writing at that point, or just playing?
I had been writing lyrics up to that point, but I hadn't really put music to lyrics till I was about 17.
Okay.
I started putting the music to the songwriting, because I've always been a writer. I did poetry in elementary school, and junior high, and all that.
Yeah.
And so I started playing. There was a couple of high school buddies. We had a band.
Yeah, that's usually
played together and did a couple of shows.
Sure.
Played at the talent show and things like that.
Do you remember doing your first song that you had written out publicly?
Actually, the first song I wrote, I didn't actually play it. My brother actually performed it
that's
at
cool.
a show.
Oh, that's good.
It was really a cool feeling, because having your song performed by someone else.
I agree. It is. I mean, to this day, I love it when people do my songs. You know, I mean, I do. It's so I know for your first one that would have to be great.
Yeah.
It's so. Did you grow up in North Carolina?
I actually grew up in El Paso, Texas.
Okay.
And lived in Texas most of my life, all the way through high school, and then I moved down to Austin, Texas, for a couple of years.
Yep,
lived down there, and that was a really great musical experience, because there was so many great singer-songwriters around there.
Yeah.
And they would have they actually had free concerts down at a place called Auditorium Shores, which was right on the lake.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd see everybody, Stevie Ray Vaughan would play out there pretty regularly.
Oh, yeah.
So, it was amazing just being around all these great musicians.
I agree. I actually, as a songwriter, Texas gave me my first big butt kicking as a songwriter. I was a new folk at Kerrville.
Oh, okay.
And I realized that I left to go out there thinking I was just the greatest. And then got out there, and some guy that was in a tent beside me was playing a song, and I thought it was great. And within a year after I returned, and that's not the people that were on stage and in the contest with. No, that was just a guy in a campfire. And sure enough, Trisha Yearwood recorded "She's in Love with the Boy," and I knew it was a great song, and that was just a guy in a tent. And he said, "Well, I think I got some traction on this," and obviously he did. But so Texas gave me my first dose of, wow, man, everybody out here is better than you are. You need to go home and either quit or work on your craft.
Harder,
yeah. So yeah, Texas is full of fine writers and players. I mean, it's a wonderful place musically.
Yeah, I was actually involved in the Austin songwriting group down there.
Oh, that's cool.
And they'd been going for a couple of years, I guess, when I joined in with them. Mm-hmm. And I remember they used to do quarterly have songwriting contests.
Yeah.
And one of my songs actually got an honorable mention,
Oh,
which
that's
is
great.
really
Yeah.
among that group
I
of
agree.
talent.
I totally agree. It's actually some of my favorite songwriters are Texas musicians.
Yeah.
James McMurtry is
Oh, yeah.
about as fine a writer as you can get.
Yeah, I just saw him. We were down there last summer.
Yeah.
And so I saw him.
Go to Continental, is that where you see him at?
Yeah. He plays pretty regular.
Yeah, he
Actually, I
does.
invited him up to Tiny Stage if he's ever in the area.
Yeah. He came to do the podcast and was a bit contrary,
Oh,
but a fabulous writer.
oh yeah.
So, yeah. So how did you get out of Texas?
So at the time, I got married when I was in Austin, and my wife at the time got a job offer in Miami, Florida. So we ended up moving down there. It's been about 6 years down there.
That's a complete different culture.
It's a totally different culture.
Yeah.
So I would go out to open mics and stuff down there. I don't think I played out much down there.
I would think singer-songwriters in Miami would be a lot harder to come across than they are in Austin.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It was more of a pop,
Sure.
playing covers
Sure.
place.
Yeah, that's kind of the way.
There were a few of them. I'd go to some of the open mics, and there'd be like some of the smaller open mics that have singer-songwriters.
Yeah. I mean, it's a totally different scene.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah, and then right around the time Hurricane Andrew came through,
yeah.
we decided we had enough of Miami.
I do understand that. Yeah.
So then my wife got a job offer up in Charlotte, North Carolina. So we decided to move up there.
So you spent most of your time as a singer-songwriter, basically, as opposed to being in a band.
Yeah, I've only time I was in bands, like full bands, or bigger bands,
Right.
more than two people,
Right.
was in high school.
That's
And then I pretty much did solo. Then when I moved up to Charlotte, I went to an open mic, and I met another gentleman, and we started playing out as a duet
right.
for a while.
Sure. I mean, duets are cool, really. I mean, it takes some of the load off of you, and you don't have to. I've worked many of them over the years.
We had kind of a unique way we did it. We would each do a solo set, and then we'd do a set together.
Together.
At the end.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way of doing it.
Yeah, so we had a little bit different styles, so
Right.
we kind of gave a...
Yeah. And then you get, I know I had someone up here last week who had spent his life in bands, and then he became a singer-songwriter, or Joe Middleton.
Oh, yeah.
Joe was always a rock and roll singer, you know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was just listening to that podcast.
Yeah, he is a rock and roll singer, so he, it was, but he's turned into a pretty fine songwriter.
We really enjoy his music.
We have a small town South Carolina background we share. So he was a pretty nice guy and pretty talented musician. How do you write? Do you write like in blocks or do you write daily?
I used to write just occasionally when I got inspired.
Right.
And then at one point, I challenged myself to write 26 songs, or actually 31 songs, 26 songs in 26 days.
Yeah.
So what I did was I took one letter of the alphabet each day.
Oh, that's pretty
cool. And
cool.
then I would just open up the dictionary at that letter,
right,
and just randomly pick a word and then write based on that word.
You know, that would be a great teaching skill. As I've taught songwriting over the years, and that would be actually a pretty good experiment for young songwriters or new songwriters to do. That's a pretty good idea.
Yeah, because I realized that, at the time I was writing only when I was inspired.
Right.
And there would be like areas or times, blocks of time where I wasn't getting that inspiration.
Yeah, I do understand. Sometimes mine comes in blocks to where I cannot get them all my ideas written down at a time. Then it goes blank.
And then for a while. So I did that, and then about a year or two later, after I did that, or it might even not have been a year, I created a group on Facebook where I invited my friends to do the same thing along with it. So it's kind of like a group songwriting thing.
Do you still do any of those songs that you wrote?
Actually, there's several of them that came out of that.
Okay.
That I perform pretty regularly.
Sure, because I have written, well, as every songwriter knows, you have as many that you don't do that you do. Okay. That there's a reason you don't do them. Mm-hmm. I have I've had to re-examine some of the ones that I wondered why they didn't get picked up from time to time, and I realized one verse can do that to you. I mean, someone's considering a song for something, and 75%, 80% of that song is really good. Then you got a trash part, and this is funny. I had a song, it was recorded, and it was going to get picked up bigger, but then they decided not to. And everybody loved the song, but I could never figure out why. So I'd forgot about the song for about 20 years. And a girl that I played in a band with calls me and says, "Hey, I'm getting ready to record a new project. Can I do that song?" And I said, "Well, you know what happened last time I did it?" She said, "Well, it's been recorded by 3 different people." I said, "I know." She said, "I still want to do it." So I said, "Yeah, fine, go ahead and do it." I said, "I've rewritten the last lines from, I kind of, after 20 years, realized where the mistake was, So I send it to her, and she writes me back and says, "Hey, can I change it back to the original line?" I said, at this point, you can even rewrite it to suit you at this point. I don't care, but she recorded it, so I'm happy, I guess.
Yeah, sometimes you never know if a song that you may not particularly like, other people latch onto, or vice versa, a song you love and nobody's.
Oh yeah, I'm not really good at picking those. I seem to be terrible at it with my own, and even with other people. Sometimes there's songs that I really like, and other people don't. I went through and picking out Kevin's stuff for something we were working on. He said, "Well, you're terrible at picking out my songs," So I don't know.
That song hit you.
It is, and it's. Well, I'm glad you got some songs out of that exercise that you use.
Really, and one thing I noticed, I used to write solo stuff. I didn't do a lot of collaboration.
Well, I was getting ready to ask you, do you do that?
I've probably the past 2-3 years, I've started doing more collaborations, And a lot of it has to do with back right when the pandemic was hitting, I joined a group online called 100 Days of Songwriting.
Right.
And I had actually met the guy who started it down in Austin at a music conference the year before. And so with the shutdown and everything, I had more time available.
Right, true.
So it worked out perfectly. And it's a unique, kind of unique concept where songwriters just, it's called a general accounting group.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what you do is for that 100 days, you set your own goal, what you're going to do every day for that.
Right.
It could be like write 5 minutes
Sure.
or 20 minutes or whatever,
Right.
whatever you feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
And you can post online every day what you're doing, or you could just read other people's posts.
Right.
There's no mandatory requirement
Right.
to post. So I got into the point where I was actually writing every day. The first goal I think was just to write 5 minutes a day.
Sure.
For 100 days,
Yeah.
and I pretty much met that for the most part. I think I wrote something every day.
Yeah.
And in a couple of days, I had some really good fleshed out lines, like verses and choruses.
Right.
Sometimes I just have like a verse or just a
Yeah,
couple lines.
yeah, sure.
But it was always something every day. And out of that, a couple of people were inspired by what I was writing and asked if they could add some music to it.
Sure, yeah.
So I began collaborating a lot more
Yeah.
with that. So I came out with some really good songs
That's good.
through the collaboration process.
Yeah, I mean, I've done it both ways. Also, so while we're talking about that, these days in Nashville, there'll be like 6 people write a song, and as a songwriter, I wonder how I feel about that. I mean, how much of that song did I really write?
Yeah, yeah. I've never done it with like a whole group. I've done songwriting with
Sure.
one person,
Yeah.
One other person. But
I've done it with 3, but I haven't done it any more than that.
Yeah,
I got this guy I know, Charles Humphreys III. He plays in the Songs for the Road band, but so he gets paid to come to Nashville and write with people. I don't know, monthly maybe, ever so often, and he'll go and he'll get there, and there'll be more people there to write with him than what he realized it was going to be. I think
Yeah.
but he's wrote some good stuff out of that. So
Yeah, I guess it kind of depends on who else is involved.
it does kind of, and I think too that you can take 2 good writers and they can be totally just different, and sometimes it won't work.
Yeah.
And I've worked with people who weren't particularly that great a writer, but was pretty creative.
Yeah.
So you can put their creativity into words, which helps too.
Yeah, and then it's also that chemistry between people.
Sure, it is.
Sometimes it just flows.
And people think about that in a band setting, but they don't think about that in a writing situation very often. So writing is, in itself, beside playing an instrument, a whole craft among itself.
Oh yeah.
So
It's one of those you're constantly learning.
sure, and hopefully, as I tell people, constantly editing. No, I won't go there.
Yeah, I think there's only been maybe one song that I've ever written that I didn't end up changing
Sure.
lyrics or something.
Well, as I've been told many times, you can even record it. Doesn't mean you can't change the way you do it. I mean, it's not set in stone, particularly. So, well, now how often are you filming? Are you filming every weekend?
We do. We usually do at least every other weekend.
Yeah.
And we'll try to do 2 or 3 every weekend.
Yeah.
It's just
I was getting ready to ask you, how many do you get in a weekend?
It varies. Like if it's a holiday weekend or something, we can get like 3 or 4
Sure.
on that weekend. Generally, we try to keep it to like 2 or 3 a weekend. Just
Sure.
because there's some preparation stuff you have to do
Right.
between
How much post-production stuff do you put in?
I figured it's about 5 to 6 hours per recording.
Yeah.
And that's if it's a solo person. If
Right.
it's a duo or large group, it can
Was that also a learning curve to do that, the editing part and the post-production?
Because you have to edit the audio separately,
Yeah.
and then you have to edit the video, and then you have to merge them together.
Yeah.
And so it's a little bit of a process, but I've kind of learned as I've gone. I've got my presets all set up.
Right.
So it flows a little bit faster than it used to.
Oh, that's good.
It's still you have to put the time in.
We used to record live acts and hear bands in this room, kind of via what you do or a tiny desk, and the biggest part was the editing time on the videos, getting the sound and getting it all, the colors to match up right and all.
Yeah.
And it's hard. The more people you have, the harder it is. And you can tell this is a lit room, so it's really tricky.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah, the nice thing about the tiny stage room that we record in, we have a carpet on the floor.
Right.
And the ceiling's kind of at an odd angle.
It is.
You don't get any direct reflection.
Right. That's good.
So
and I thought it was a great setup,
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things that I think you also looked into a pretty good sounding room, which sometimes you can work on rooms and you still can't get them right.
Yeah, I think just the angle, the wall that we decided to put the stage on, and the angle of the roof worked.
Yeah, I think that.
And one thing I think that has really helped the sound. It's one of those things you wouldn't notice it unless it was there.
Right.
On the stage, I have 2 trees that have guitars hanging on.
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
And there's like 6 guitars on each
Right.
tree, and I think that actually adds to some of the sound because the guitars actually absorb the sound.
It could. Well, it's vibration,
Yeah,
there's
vibrations on the strings.
Yeah. I mean, that could be. It's also pretty cool to look at too. You realize that too. I mean, it's a good visual.
Yeah, and I think just the room itself, because it's soaked up so much great music over the years.
I think.
It just has.
I think they have a vibe, a life of its own. Really, a lot of music.
Yeah.
This room has a lot of music in it. It's so rooms do that. They have lives of their own, which I think people don't realize either.
And I think people just pick up on that vibe when they come in.
Yeah.
They try to just make it a casual place where people just come in and play. And
Sure.
share their music.
Sure. Now, how often are you doing? How often are you playing out and doing your stuff too?
It varies. Right now, I'm not actively seeking shows, but
Right.
I have been getting a lot of invites to do some songwriter
Sure.
showcases and a couple of solo shows.
Yeah.
I actually have a show this Thursday, which is July 6th at Comet Grill.
Yeah, I know the Comet. Yeah.
Influences and Originals.
Sure.
Show there.
Yeah.
Paul Lover puts that on.
Comet has been a really good place for Charlotte musicians.
Oh, yeah.
It really has.
It's got a lot of mojo to it.
It does have a lot of mojo to it.
Out there.
It's one of the real iconic ones that are still left. I mean, they're falling by the wayside in Charlotte pretty quickly these days.
Oh yeah.
But
And about a couple of weeks ago, Don Eidman invited me out to play over at a Wired Coffee Express
Yeah.
in Kannapolis.
Yeah.
And I ended up doing a solo show there, which was ended up being comedy and music.
oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, that goes hand in hand too.
Yeah.
There's I think he's been on your show. Have you ever seen Jeff Wall, the Big Dumb
Jeff
Hick?
Paul, yes, he's been on our show.
Pretty funny guy. I mean, he's almost as much a comedian as he is a.
He's got some great.
Yeah.
stuff.
I mean, he's one of the guys that he reached out to me, and he was. It was a real treat because his songs are different.
Mm-hmm.
He's a different guy. It's kind of fun.
Character. He's pretty smart too.
Yeah, he is pretty smart. He calls himself the Big Dumb Hick, but he's not.
Yeah.
He is big though. He's but you've come across all types, I guess. I mean,
Yeah, we've had we try to keep the format open, so we don't try to keep it to one genre.
right, and I've noticed that is one really good thing about it is it seems to be you can come there and do your stuff. It doesn't have to be. It can be anything you want it to be.
Yeah, we've had everything from polished musicians to people who've only written like 6 songs.
Sure, yeah. I think that's good though. I think that's great.
Yeah, we're trying to just we're looking for that creativity.
Yeah,
that's the main factor.
Sure.
So if they've got good songs, and it's not so much about the performance; it's more about the song
itself,
and the songwriter
sure.
itself. Yeah.
Well, I see that. We have a songwriting contest here in town, which I would tell you that is not a really songwriting contest. It is a performance-based competition where songwriting, the song is probably the least, it's the least, given the least attention than anything.
That's unfortunate.
It is.
If you're having a songwriting contest, you want the songwriting to be at the heart of it.
Yeah, you do. You want it to be. It doesn't matter the performance of if it's a songwriting thing. It is the song itself. Yeah. I mean, I suspect Bob Dylan would never win a contest of any type, and yet he would probably 99% of the time have the best song. So so it is kind of weird that way. Can they reach out to you if they want to, or do you reach out?
Well, we actually get a lot of people contacting me through my website. We have it's at tinystageconcerts.com.
You need to promote that.
And there's a link to email me. And I get a lot of out-of-town people contacting us through there.
Yeah.
And for some reason, our website ended up on a house concert website.
Oh, so you get people reaching out.
People wanting to come by and play a house concert,
right?
And so I have to explain to them what we do. And we actually get a lot of artists coming through who just want to come by and as a way to promote themselves in the area.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's great. Well, I wondered because I know we're doing this, and is your website, is that your basic contact for everything? If they want to hire you for jobs, if they want to come to the and do the concert at your house, it's all through the same.
They would just contact me, or they can contact me through our Tiny Stage Facebook page.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. What else we need to know?
Let's see. We just hit our 1,000th subscriber.
Oh, that's great. That is really good.
Yeah. So it's been growing.
Okay. Now, are you monetizing it through?
Well, unfortunately, it used to be where once you hit 1,000 subscribers, you could monetize.
Right.
Now you have to have 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of listening within a 12-month period.
Sure.
So we're about halfway there.
Well, I mean, that's good though. Yeah. And it's I know this without even asking you, but the monetary part of it's, who cares for you, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it'd be nice to happen, but that is not your goal.
Yeah, definitely just getting the music out there is the main thing.
Yeah.
And then we get a lot of people when they come, they'll just make donations.
Sure.
With the time involved.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's more of a passion project.
Sure, I do understand. I've had several chances. Spotify has offered to buy this program twice from me, and I like doing it, and it's not really about the money. Yeah. And I would just wind up recreating it somewhere else, so I'm staying with it for the time being.
Yeah.
How about doing it?
I think if somebody else took over Tiny Stage, it wouldn't be the same thing.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
I think part of it is just that stage itself.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, I agree. That stage is real iconic. It's really cool. Yeah. And it's special, too. It sounds good. A lot of things that just can't happen in a different space.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so we've had a lot of fun with it.
Can you do a couple more songs for me?
Sure.
All right, let's do that.
All right. Well, you had mentioned that you do a John Prine cover
Sure.
band.
Mhm.
This song was actually inspired by John Prine. I think I was channeling him one day. I was sitting in the backyard, and I wrote the lyrics for it. And a guy named Joe Thompson, who's up in Maryland, wrote the music for it.
Okay.
You got squirrels in your bird feeder. Your gutters are full of leaves. Your guitar won't stay in tune, and your piano is missing keys. The toilet is overflowing, and the turkey is starting to burn. You've been taking meditation lessons, but you never seem to learn. Let the squirrels run wild, take those thoughts inside your mind. Embrace your inner child, he's waiting there for you to find. You don't need to learn what you already know. If it holds you down, just let it go. You got some big holes in your bucket, and your mortgage is long overdue. The trash is piling up in the corner, and the rodents are laughing at you. You're a few dishes short of a full load, but you got no detergent anyway. You've been waiting for your ship to come in, it could come crashing through any day. Let the squirrels run wild, take those thoughts inside your mind. Embrace your inner child, he's waiting there for you to find. You don't need to learn what you already know. If it holds you down, just let it go. Now the road of life is full of potholes, and your car is off in the ditch. You could have sworn when you were young, by this time you'd be filthy rich. Life is a terrible housekeeper, so your dreams get covered in dust. Like an old-time radio receiver, you've got to learn to adjust. Let the squirrels run wild, tame those thoughts inside your mind. Embrace your inner child, he's waiting there for you to find. You don't need to learn what you already know. If it holds you down, just let it go. If it holds you down, let it go. All right, so this is a fairly recent song that I just wrote. I think some people might be able to relate to it. When I was young, the sky was the limit. My bank of time had millions of minutes. Sailing down the streets on a bike that had no brakes. I didn't see the stop signs, I never learned from my mistakes. I was focused on the future, searching for a sign. Now there's an old man in my mirror, I thought I had more time. In the game of life, there's only one way to win it. You gotta squeeze every minute out of every minute when you're in it. When I beautiful, but I was living far beyond. I was living in a dream, and everything was fine. Then the alarm clock rang. Thought I had more time. In the game of life, there's only one way to win it. You gotta squeeze every minute out of every minute when you're in it. When I was a young man, I thought the whole world was mine. Now I see the setting sun. I thought I had more time. Thought I had more time. It's a game of life, and there's one way to win it. You gotta squeeze every minute out of every minute when you're in it. Just squeeze every minute out of every minute when you're in it. When I was a young man, I thought the whole world was mine. Now I see the setting sun. I thought I had more time. Thought I had more time. I wish I had more time.